that I was a person who got attracted to photography for all its more romantic notions, like seeing the world with different eyes, finding that decisive moment, and struggling with making art from the world as it is, etc., etc. So I really loved the medium when I picked up the camera. But I think for me, and I think this happens with every person of color, which when you see the insidious side of the medium and how it has been used in the past uh, to subjugate people from, your community, etc., etc. So for me, encountering this image, and especially in this form, was like coming out of Plato's cave. I mean, I cannot now enjoy photography as I used to. I had this very romantic notion of, photography, but that stops now. And so I'm interested in how we show problematic images, and the question whether by displaying some images in certain ways can we amplify the initial violence of the camera shutter. And I'm also against these kinds of bad archival practices. One thing I so this is my protest against NYPL. I'm all okay for if you want to preserve history as it is and show it, etc., etc. But my point is that you need to be very you should make sure how these images are good. And this is a good example of a good archival practice. This is Yale University's database. They have images of Cambodian genocide, of prisoners, photos taken of prisoners before they were executed. Have a look at this. I mean, I know once you put an image on the internet, anyone can use it for any purpose. But still, this sort of makes a point that at least the institution is trying to do something good, or is thinking more about how they are showing images from their vast collections. And I know that New York Public Library does not have a evil coder who's like coding all these things in his lab and thinking of evil ideas. I know it's like a site-wide code they have put in which every image could be bought in this way. But my point is that as a so-called esteemed cultural institution, being the second biggest library in the country, they could do better, right? That's my point. My another thing which I always feel museums do is that they have this very, on the surface level, they have this woke stance over everything. But behind the scenes, what goes around is so fucked up. And I think this is what I want to critique, that how they have this public facing face in which they show that we want to support our communities and we want to be with them, etc., etc. They have everything, but they're actually not doing anything like that. So yeah, I'm interested in, and I think the only way to fight this back is to again mess around with their website. And another interesting thing I like is that again, 150 years ago, these people were in some ways exploited by a piece of technology. In that case, the camera. In this case, they are still being exploited. Right now, it's HTML tags and JavaScript queries and web technology. So that's also something interesting. And so this is an act of glitch resistance, which I like. And also the whole fact that I'm also showing you the code, which again, according to me, it's still, technology still exploits these people. In this case, it's not, it's not the camera, but and the darkroom chemicals, etc., etc. It's simply the image tags. And another fun fact, it's HTML was also a language invented by Britishers. Tim Berners-Lee, he made web and HTML. So it's very interesting to me that how right now what's happening is that these people, 150 years after the initial photo was taken, even at that time, I'm pretty sure the photographer said, hey, you need to stand still. I know you're starving, you're in the worst moment of your life, but I need to make your exposure. He took the photo. 150 years down the line, these people are still being exploited in a way. This time it's being done by, again, HTML tags and CSS code. So I like this idea of bringing forth the underlying mechanics of this kind of semiotic capitalism. And again, deleting it. Fuck you. This is my plan. And again, messing around with the captions, and so yeah.
This is happening on your ground.
Yeah, exactly. So the only thing is that it's happening locally, but I still think it makes a point.
It does. No, it absolutely. It's very.
Yeah.
I found that video very easy and no audio, no nothing, and I got it like very quickly. Maybe I'm great. Maybe that's
Yeah, and that was still a very first attempt. I really know now how I would be doing it all, but yeah, I mean, and I'm not even a very emotional person, but still, I mean, these images did have an emotional reaction to me. I mean, just imagine this person's family, like, where's this? Yeah, I mean, just imagine this person's family seeing this image and how it's still being. I mean, you can also get it framed and as a wall mural, as a stretched canvas, etc., etc. Another thing I find very interesting is how, again, we have talked about this a lot, how archives lose memory also. So we have the photographer's version of what he saw when he was photographing these people, but we don't have anything on the side of, and this is, to me, this statement in itself is very problematic. Willoughby Wallace Hooper is the photographer, took around 300 photos for this particular book that I'm talking about, The People of India. Uh, and again, he covered various other events. He was a British Army photographer, covered the Madras famine, and yeah. So yeah, this is my problem with the images. And again, as a thing for visual studies, it's also interesting. I mean, look at the layout of the book and the subjects chosen on facing pages. One is showing again a savage native with axe. The other shows a civilized native with a book in this case. So it's very interesting to me how even the semiotics works in these kinds of images. So yeah, I mean, my whole point is to bring back the underlying things under this. But yeah, this is so interesting, and my idea is to do a performance act in which I again delete these images. This is the best I can do, and this is honestly, this was the first reaction I had when I discovered these images, that I wish I could delete them, because I totally believe that every time we see a violent image, in some ways we are complicit in the violence. I have thought about that question a lot, especially in the context of these images. Yeah, these were images made in Algeria when the French was occupying the country. The French government said that we need to make a photo ID of every citizen, and they stripped women of their burqa wheels, or women who had never shown their face to anyone outside their family, and they were forced to stand in front of a French photographer, Marc Garanger, and they were forced and they were taken a portrait of. And I do wonder, I do think that I am complicit in the violence whenever I see these images. In an ideal world, these images should not have existed. And the same argument applies for the book People of India. In an ideal world, those images should not have existed. Those subjects did not want themselves to be taken like that. And yeah, and I am also guilty, and I think we all are guilty in viewing these images. And I think I want to make a work about this institutional critique plus a critique of, again, I'm interested in colonial critique also, institutional critique also. But yeah, I mean, in